I stood in front of 200 investors, my hands shaking, my voice steady, pitching the business I'd built from nothing. And my business partner, the man I'd trusted for 3 years, looked me dead in the eye and said, "I don't think she's capable of leading this company." The room went silent. 200 pairs of eyes turned to me. My chest tightened. My throat closed. But I didn't move. Then my phone rang. A blocked number. I almost ignored it. But something told me to answer. So I did. And the voice on the other end changed everything. My name is Olivia Cross, and I'm 34 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and for the last 3 years, I've been building a tech startup called Beacon Systems. We develop cybersecurity software for small businesses. It's niche. It's competitive. And it's been my entire life. I didn't come from money. I grew up in a single-parent household. My mom worked 2 jobs to put me through community college. I transferred to a state school, graduated with a degree in computer science, and worked my way up through 3 different companies before I finally had the skills and the courage to start my own. That's where I met Derek Hale. Derek was a finance guy. Charismatic. Connected. He had an MBA from a top school and a network of investors I could never access on my own. When I pitched him my idea, he loved it. He said he wanted in. He offered to handle the business side, fundraising, operations, investor relations, while I focused on the product. It seemed perfect. We shook hands. We signed partnership agreements. We split equity 50-50. And for 2 years, it worked. We launched our beta product. We secured our first clients. We started getting attention from investors. Everything was moving in the right direction. But then something shifted. Derek started making decisions without me. He'd schedule investor meetings and forget to invite me. He'd change our pitch deck without telling me. He started referring to himself as the CEO in emails, even though we were supposed to be co-founders. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself he was just being proactive, that he was handling the business side like we'd agreed. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The breaking point came 6 months ago. We were preparing for our series of funding round, the big one. The round that would determine whether we survived or died. Derek insisted on leading the pitch. He said investors wanted to hear from someone with business experience. I didn't argue. I should have. But I didn't. We scheduled the pitch for today. A private event at a downtown conference center. 200 potential investors. Venture capitalists. Angel investors. People with deep pockets and high expectations. I spent weeks preparing. I knew every slide. Every number. Every answer to every question they might ask. I was ready. But Derek wasn't. The night before the pitch, he called me. "Olivia, I think we need to make a change." "What kind of change?" I asked. "I think I should deliver the entire pitch. Alone." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Why?" "Because investors respond better to confidence. And, honestly, Olivia, I don't think you project that." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Derek, I built this product. I know it better than anyone." "I know. But I know how to sell it." I wanted to fight him. But I was exhausted. So I agreed to a compromise. I would present the product. He would handle the financials and the closing pitch. Split it down the middle. He agreed. But I should have known better. The day of the pitch arrived. I wore my best suit. I reviewed my notes one last time. I walked into that conference center feeling nervous but ready. Derek was already there, shaking hands, laughing with investors like he owned the place. He barely looked at me when I walked in. "You ready?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, let's do this." We took the stage. The lights were bright. The room was packed. I could feel the weight of 200 stares pressing down on me. Derek started the pitch. He was smooth. Polished. He talked about market opportunity, growth potential, ROI. The investors nodded along, clearly impressed. Then it was my turn. I stepped up to the microphone and started explaining the product. how it worked, why it mattered, why small businesses needed it. I spoke clearly, confidently, passionately. And that's when Derek interrupted me. Actually, Olivia, let me jump in here. I froze. What? He smiled at the audience. I think I can explain this a bit more clearly. My heart sank. He was undermining me. In front of everyone. I stepped back, trying to keep my composure. Derek took over, re-explaining everything I'd just said, but in his words. He made it sound like his idea. His vision. The investors didn't seem to notice. They were focused on him. When he finished, he turned to me and said, Olivia built the initial prototype, which was great. But the real innovation, the scalability, the business model, that's what I brought to the table. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. The Q&A session started. An investor raised his hand. This is impressive. But I have a question about leadership. Who's actually running this company day to day? Derek didn't hesitate. I am. My jaw dropped. The investor nodded. And what's Olivia's role? Derek glanced at me, then back at the investor. Olivia is our lead developer. She's incredibly talented. But in terms of strategy, operations, and long-term vision, that's me. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. That's not true, I said, my voice shaking. The room went silent. Derek's smile faltered. Olivia. No, I said, stepping forward. That's not true, and you know it. I founded this company. I built the product. I developed the business model. You came in as a partner, not a CEO. Derek's face hardened. Olivia, this isn't the time. Then when is the time, Derek? After you've erased me completely. The tension in the room was suffocating. Investors shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked intrigued. Derek turned to the audience and forced a laugh. I apologize for this. Olivia and I have been under a lot of stress. Sometimes emotions run high. This isn't about emotions, I said. This is about the truth. He looked at me, his eyes cold. The truth is, Olivia, I don't think you're capable of leading this company. You're a great developer. But leadership? That's not you. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. 200 people stared at me, waiting to see what I'd do. My hands were shaking. My throat was tight. But I refused to cry. And that's when my phone rang. A blocked number. I pulled it out of my pocket, staring at the screen. Derek looked at me like I was insane. You're going to answer that? Now. Something in my gut told me to pick up. So I did. Hello, Ms. Cross? This is James Everett. I'm an attorney with Caldwell and Associates. I've been trying to reach you for the past 2 weeks. My heart started pounding. I'm sorry, I don't. It's regarding your business partnership with Derek Hale. I represent 3 former clients of his. We've uncovered some serious financial discrepancies, and I believe you need to see this immediately. I glanced at Derek. He was watching me, his expression unreadable. What kind of discrepancies? I asked. The kind that involve embezzlement, fraudulent investor agreements, and forged signatures. I have documents that prove Mr. Hale has been siphoning funds from Beacon Systems for the past 18 months. My blood ran cold. I'm sorry, what? I can send you the files right now if you give me your email. But Ms. Cross, you need to act quickly. If he's presenting to investors today, he's likely trying to secure more money before this comes to light. I felt dizzy. Send me everything. Done. Check your inbox. I hung up and immediately opened my email. Derek was still staring at me. Who was that? He asked. I didn't answer. I was too focused on the email that had just arrived. There were 12 attachments. Bank statements. Wire transfer records. Signed agreements. And every single one of them had Derek's name on it. He'd been stealing from the company. From me. I looked up at him, and he must have seen it in my face, because his expression changed. The confidence drained. The smugness disappeared. He knew I knew. Olivia, he said slowly. Whatever you're thinking. You stole from me. The room erupted in whispers. Derek held up his hands. That's not, let me explain. Explain what? I said, my voice rising. Explain how you've been funneling money out of our company for over a year? Explain how you forged my signature on investor agreements? Explain how you've been lying to me this entire time. His face went pale. One of the investors stood up. What's going on here? I turned to the audience, holding up my phone. My business partner has been embezzling funds from Beacon Systems. I just received documented proof from an attorney representing his former victims. The room exploded. Investors started talking over each other. Some stood up. Others pulled out their phones. Derek lunged toward me. Olivia, stop. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said, stepping back. You used me. You used my work, my ideas, my reputation to build your own credibility. And then you stole from me. It's not stealing if I was owed it. Owed it? I stared at him in disbelief. You were a 50-50 partner. You got exactly what you were owed. I did all the real work, he shouted. You just coded. I built the relationships. I brought in the money. I made this company viable. By stealing. He didn't answer. One of the investors, a woman in a sharp gray suit, walked up to the stage. Ms. Cross, I'd like to see those documents. I handed her my phone. She scrolled through the attachments, her expression darkening with every swipe. This is wire fraud, she said quietly. And identity theft. Derek's hands were shaking now. I can explain all of this. No, the woman said coldly. You can't. She turned to the rest of the room. Everyone, I'm Caroline Gwynn. I'm a partner at Horizon Capital. And I'm also a former federal prosecutor. What we just witnessed is a confession to multiple felonies. The room went dead silent. Derek looked like he was going to be sick. Caroline handed my phone back to me. Ms. Cross, I strongly suggest you contact law enforcement immediately. And if you're interested, I'd like to discuss investment opportunities with you, without Mr. Hale involved. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Derek tried to leave. But two security guards were already standing at the exits. One of the other investors had called them. Sir, you need to stay here, one of the guards said. Derek spun around, his eyes wild. This is insane. Olivia, tell them this is a misunderstanding. It's not, I said quietly. His face twisted into something ugly. You're going to regret this. No, I said. I'm not. The guards escorted him to a side room to wait for the police. The investors slowly started filing out, murmuring to each other, some of them glancing back at me with expressions ranging from pity to respect. Caroline stayed behind. That took guts, she said. I didn't have a choice, I replied. You did. You could have stayed silent. Protected the partnership. A lot of people would have. I'm not a lot of people. She smiled. No, you're not. She handed me her card. Call me when this settles. I mean it. We invest in founders like you. After she left, I stood alone on that stage, staring out at the empty chairs. My phone buzzed. It was James Everett, the attorney. Miss Cross, I just spoke with the authorities. They're opening an investigation. You did the right thing. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat down on the edge of the stage and let myself breathe for the first time in hours. It was over. But it was also just beginning. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They took Derek into custody for questioning. I gave them everything, the emails from James Everett, the financial documents, the forged agreements. They said it was enough to start a formal investigation. Over the next 2 weeks, the case unraveled quickly. The attorney, James Everett, had been building a case against Derek for months. Turns out, Derek had done this before. Twice. He'd partnered with 2 other founders in previous startups, gained their trust, siphoned money, and then disappeared before anyone noticed. One of those founders went bankrupt. The other lost everything. They'd been trying to track him down for years. And when they found out he was involved with Beacon Systems, they reached out to me. I'd ignored their emails. I'd been too busy, too trusting. That almost cost me everything. The forensic accountants went through Beacon's books and found over $300,000 missing. Derek had been transferring money into offshore accounts, shell companies, and personal investments. He'd even used company funds to pay for his luxury apartment and his car. And the worst part? He'd forged my signature on loan agreements, making it look like I'd approved the transactions. If I hadn't answered that phone call, I would have been legally responsible for his crimes. When I learned that, I felt sick. But I also felt something else. Anger. White-hot, unshakable anger. Derek had tried to destroy me. He'd tried to steal my work, my reputation, and my future. And I wasn't going to let him get away with it. 3 weeks after the pitch, Derek was formally charged with wire fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, and securities fraud. His bail was set at $500,000. He couldn't make it. So he sat in jail, waiting for trial. I didn't feel sorry for him. His lawyer reached out to me, trying to negotiate. He wanted me to drop the charges in exchange for Derek repaying the stolen money. I refused. This isn't just about money, I told the lawyer. This is about justice. The lawyer sighed. Ms. Cross, if this goes to trial, it's going to be ugly. Your company's finances will be scrutinized. Your reputation could take a hit. Let them scrutinize, I said. I have nothing to hide. And I didn't. The trial was scheduled for 6 months later. But in the meantime, I had a company to save. Beacon Systems was in bad shape. The stolen money had left us barely functional. We'd missed payroll twice. 3 of our developers quit. Our clients were getting nervous. But Caroline Gwynn kept her word. She introduced me to a group of investors who believed in the product and in me. We restructured the company. I became the sole CEO. We secured emergency funding to cover the shortfall. And slowly, painfully, we started to rebuild. It wasn't easy. There were days I wanted to give up. Days I wondered if it was worth it. But then I'd remember that phone call. That moment on stage when I could have stayed silent. And I knew I'd made the right choice. For months later, Derek's trial began. I testified. I brought the documents. I told the truth. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They found him guilty on all counts. Derek was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. He was also ordered to pay full restitution, not just to me, but to his 2 previous victims. When the verdict was read, I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. But as I walked out of that courtroom, Caroline was waiting for me in the hallway. You did it, she said. We did it, I corrected. She smiled. Now, let's talk about the future. Over the next few months, Caroline and her firm invested $2 million into Beacon Systems. We hired back the developers we'd lost. We brought on a new COO, someone I trusted, someone with a clean record and solid references. And we relaunched. Our first major client after the relaunch was a national retail chain. Then a healthcare network. Then a financial services firm. Word spread. The press picked up the story, not about the fraud, but about the comeback. About the founder who refused to give up. Incorporated magazine called me the CEO who took down her own partner. Forbes featured Beacon Systems in their Startups to Watch list. And 6 months after Derek's conviction, we closed our series of funding round. $5 million. I stood in front of the same investors who'd watched me get humiliated on that stage. But this time, I stood alone. And this time, I was in control. Thank you for believing in Beacon Systems, I said. And thank you for believing in me. The room erupted in applause. Afterward, one of the investors came up to me. I was here the day your partner tried to sabotage you. I'll never forget how you handled that. That's the kind of leader we want to invest in. I smiled. I'm just getting started. And I meant it. It's been a year since that pitch. A year since Derek tried to destroy me. A year since I answered that phone call and everything changed. Beacon Systems is thriving. We have over 50 employees now. We've expanded into 3 new markets. Our software is being used by over 2,000 businesses across the country. And me? I'm stronger than I've ever been. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned to trust my instincts. I learned that loyalty doesn't mean staying silent when someone betrays you. I learned that standing up for yourself, even when it's terrifying, is always worth it. Derek is still in prison. I haven't spoken to him since the trial. I don't plan to, but I did receive a letter from him a few months ago. It was short. It said, "I'm sorry for what I did. I was jealous. I wanted what you had. I hope you can forgive me someday." I read it once. Then I threw it away. Because forgiveness isn't something he's earned. And it's not something I owe him. What I owe is to myself. To the company I built. To the people who believed in me when I had every reason to give up. And to anyone out there who's ever been doubted, betrayed, or told they weren't good enough, know this. You are capable. You are strong. And you don't need anyone's permission to succeed. Trust yourself. Protect yourself. And never, ever let anyone take credit for your work. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.